The Supercar Challenge is powered by Pirelli, Syntex Innovative Lubricants, Autosportinsurance.com, Spa05.com and Fitzner Performance Gearboxes. Welcome to the Supercar Challenge powered by Pirelli, the Benelux Championship for GTs, touring cars and sports prototypes. The season's over, the champions are crowned, the cars are back in their workshops, and preparations for the 15th season are already in full swing. But how did the 2014 season play out? Stay with us for the next hour to see all the highs and lows of the Supercar Challenge powered by Pirelli 2014. The Supercar Challenge powered by Pirelli has been a great success for 14 consecutive years. It's a championship for gentlemen drivers, in other words, non-professionals, but still at one of the highest levels in Europe. The 2014 season featured 3 race weekends in Belgium, including 2 on the magnificent Spa-Francorchamps. The historic circuit of Zolder has traditionally been part of the calendar, and 2014 was no different. Germany's Nürburgring and Brands Hatch in England were the 2 trips outside the Benelux, and of course the Netherlands is also part of the calendar with 2 weekends on the TT circuit at Assen. But the 2014 season started at Circuit Park Zandvoort. As ever, lots of familiar faces returning to Supercar Challenge. In Super GT, Martin Lanting and Bob Herber are back with the Martino Rosso racing team. They finished 5th in the 2013 points race with the Ferrari 458 Italia GT2 and are keen to win this year's title. They start 3rd on the grid for the second race of the weekend. Fabian Hamprecht's Audi R8 LMS on pole and the blue Volvo S60 of Henry Zumbrink alongside. As the lights go out, Bob Herber makes an excellent start. He's got less downforce and so better straight-line speed on the Ferrari. He immediately takes the lead and under braking for Tarzan, he's ahead of Hamprecht and Zumbrink. The battle rages throughout the race between the Martino Rosso Ferrari and the Prosperia Abt Audi, but Martin Lanting and Bob Herber hold on to claim their first ever Super GT victory. In third place, Henry Zumbrink, and thanks to his win in the first race, he takes the championship lead. Third place in the points, the brand new Viper GT3R of Roger Graals, Robert de Graaf and Arjen van der Zwaan, struggling with a steep learning curve. At the second round at the Nürburgring, the Race Art Viper shows its potential by immediately challenging the Volvos of Henry Zumbrink and Kelvin Snooks, though Snooks claims the early lead in the white car ahead of pole sitter Arjen van der Zwaan. While the Volvo drivers feared the Viper's speed, the Viper team figured the Volvos would be better under braking. But here, it's the Viper that comes out on top. Better top speed, and he manages also to get by Kelvin Snooks under braking. Arjen van der Zwaan and Roger Graals hold on to the lead to the checkered flag. It's the Viper's first win in Europe, only its second race weekend. Great stuff from the team. Henry Zumbrink ends up off the podium after handling problems with his Volvo, leaving the Martino Rosso Ferrari atop the points. Driver Bob Herber starts race 2 in 4th. Ferrari making a very quick start, not so good for Zumbrink, and look on the left-hand side of your picture, the yellow Vicora Barry Mason, but also the white nose of Kelvin Snooks, his Volvo is going to take the lead. Roger Graals in second in the Viper, and 3 wide behind. Bob Herber's on the outside, the tyre wall is right in front, he has to back out, and Barry Mason's yellow Vicora V8 has gone through, but look at the speed of which the Volvo accelerates. There's your race leader, Kelvin Snooks, the new SRT Viper of Roger Graals in second, under pressure from Henry Zumbrink. Zumbrink looking to try and make his way through. Now the Ferrari should be one of the fastest cars here, and Herber's got his foot to the boards and lunges up the inside. Great move under braking, up to 4th place on the pit straight in the slipstream of Henry Zumbrink. Now can he make a pass to the inside? Herber's looking for third. Down the inside, on the apex, but Zumbrink's just got wriggle room, and then it turns sharp left and Herber backs off there to avoid an incident. And listen to that, the totally different sound of the V8 in the Volvo compared to the V8 in the Ferrari. It's one of the glories of sports car racing, the different sights and sounds. He's still struggling with the rear end of this Volvo Zumbrink, and that makes him easy meat under braking. Bob Herber goes through, and there is no option but to bring the car into the pits. The sort of speeds they're doing here at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit, you can't fight a wayward rear end. No such problems for Kelvin Snooks though. He leads from start to finish and wins the second encounter in his Volvo, 4 seconds in front of the Race Art Viper. Martin Lanting and Bob Herber finish third, and that's just enough to retain the championship lead, a single point ahead of the Viper drivers as Henry Zumbrink slumps to third. The third round at Spa, though, is one that Team Race Art will definitely want to forget. The Viper's still in its early development stages, sustains overheating engine damage, they're out for the weekend. Good news perhaps for Henry Zumbrink, who had his fair share of bad luck in Germany. He can strike back as he takes the lead at the start of the race and holds it to the flag. Third again, though, are championship leaders Martin Lanting and Bob Herber, so Henry doesn't gain too much ground, and he knows he'll need another maximum score from the second encounter to close the gap. For the 6th race of the season in Spa then, Zumbrink starts on pole. Bob Herber on the third row in the Ferrari. Can he make another exceptional getaway? Yes, he does. Look at that. Really gets the hammer down fast. Zumbrink under pressure from 2 Ferraris now. The black car, Nick Homerson, that was second in race 1, and Bob Herber on the inside. Great exit from him, and looking fourth, the white nose. That is the Lamborghini of Peter Dubois, the GT leader now. He's up to 4th place. Down the hill into Eau Rouge for the first time. Here the splitters chattering on the ground as they power through and up the Kemmel Straight. Zumbrink never to surrender that lead as he rushes on to win race 2 of the weekend. And the battle for third coming down to a dramatic last corner in the bus stop. The Aston Martin of Andy Schultz bumps up the inside of Martin Lanting, squeezes him out of third place just as Jan Verslijs did last year. Dramatic stuff. A good weekend for Henry Zumbrink, putting his Nürburgring woes behind him. His third win of the season puts him back on top of the championship standings now. 4 points ahead of Bob Herber and Martin Lanting as the Race Art team drops back to third after their problems with the Viper's engine. They leave Spa and head to Belgium's other racetrack, the circuit of Zolder. Famously treacherous in the rain, it all goes wrong here between the top 2 in the championship. Henry Zumbrink's Volvo ends up stuck in the gravel. He'll score 0 points. Barry Mason's Vicora wins the race, his first of the season. He's chased by Roger Graals and Robert de Graaf. Martin Lanting and Bob Herber finish 4th, but retake the championship lead. The second race at Zolder actually seems to be even wetter than the first. Bob Herber struggles. The traction control in the Ferrari isn't really helping him at all. He's stuck in the slower GT class cars and drops back to 6th position. No such problems for the Volvos, no traction control, it's all down to the driver. Henry Zumbrink takes his 4th win of the season. It's a Volvo 1-2 ahead of Kelvin Snooks. But as he dropped out of Saturday's race, Zumbrink still only leaves Zolder in 2nd place, and the Race Art Viper is gaining slowly but surely. It's turning into a season of ups and downs. Well, having climbed up a ladder in the wet in Zolder, Henry Zumbrink slides down a snake in the first race at Assen. A gearbox sensor goes on the blink and ruins his chances. Fortunately, he completes 75% race distance and still gets some points, but his main championship rivals make it onto the podium. Kelvin Snooks wins the race in his Volvo, ahead of Robert de Graaf and Roger Graals in the Viper. Martin Lanting and Bob Herber again in 3rd. Packed grandstands on Sunday as Henry Zumbrink is determined to make up for lost ground in race 2. He starts alongside pole sitter Kelvin Snooks in the other Volvo. His biggest rivals are right behind him. Bob Herber starts 3rd. Robert de Graaf in the Viper is 4th. Behind them, the white Aston Martin Vantage of Paul Bailey and the yellow Vicora V8 of Barry Mason as they get ready for the 1-hour race. So here we go, ready for the start of race 2. Now, does Kelvin Snooks make another good getaway? Yes, he does. Oh, and look at that. Barry Mason in the Vicora around the outside. Electrifying start again for him. Ferrari of Bob Herber in 3rd place. But the Viper and the Vicora side by side. Robert de Graaf just keeps his nose in front for 4th. But he loses touch with the top 3. Kelvin Snooks leads up to the pit stops, but he's then hit with a drive-through penalty for passing under yellow flags, and that costs him the lead. Fellow Volvo driver Henry Zumbrink picks up the 1st place and win number 5 of the season, and that's mighty impressive. He has now won 5 of the 10 races to date. 50% of the starts go to him. Will it be enough to take the championship? Behind runner-up Kelvin Snooks, Martin Lanting and Bob Herber yet again in 3rd place, so the Martino Rosso Racing team retains the championship lead, but by just 3 points. The Race Art Viper continues to be a threat in 3rd spot. The last time the Supercar Challenge powered by Pirelli visited the historic Brands Hatch circuit in England was 8 years ago. Now they're back for round 6 of the championship, the first race won by Kelvin Snooks' Volvo from Ian van der Swan and Roger Graals in the Viper, with Martin Lanting and Bob Herber, yes you guessed it, again in 3rd, Henry Zumbrink down in 4th. For race 2, Zumbrink starts 3rd on the grid, Roger Graals in the Race Art Viper alongside. Pole sitter is Kelvin Snooks in the white Volvo, Peter Cox is in the orange McLaren. And away they go, and again a good start from Kelvin Snooks, with Bob Herber, his 2 closest championship chasers, right in front of him there. And the McLaren has the lead for the first time. Peter Cox into the hairpin here at Druids. Bob Herber inside Roger Graals. Good run from the Ferrari driver. Great bit of breaking up the inside. Attack being the best form of defence of his championship lead. He's already gone from 6th to 4th in just 2 corners. Leader Peter Cox has to park the McLaren with a misfire, meaning Kelvin Snooks is in front to the pit stops, but then he drops back to 2nd behind teammate Henry Zumbrink, who lost a podium spot to the Martino Rosso Ferrari in the first race. So let's see if he's subject to pressure again. Snooks right down behind him as they head into clearways. Again, over the brow, off camber, squirrel around under braking there, and then accelerate through and along the Brabham straight to start another lap. Up to Paddock Hill Bend. The racing line on the left, the aggressive line deep on the right-hand side. Snooks pushing hard, Henry Zumbrink holding on in front. Zumbrink really needs a big success here to undo some of the damage the Ferrari caused, but he drifts a little wide into Druids, and through goes Kelvin Snooks. So Snooks goes on to win the 2nd race of the weekend. Not on the podium though. Championship leaders Martin Lanting and Bob Herber, they finished 4th and are now just 1 point ahead of Henry Zumbrink after the first 12 races of the season. The denouement of Super GT is coming up next, as well as the other 2 GT divisions and much, much more in the Supercar Challenge powered by Pirelli. The Supercar Challenge is powered by Pirelli, Syntex Innovative Lubricants, Autosportinsurance.com, Spa05.com and Fitzner Performance Gearboxes. Welcome back to our review of the 2014 Supercar Challenge powered by Pirelli. Before the break, we saw the first 6 rounds of the Super GT Championship, so let's see how the plot twists and turns at the 7th race weekend at Spa-Francorchamps in the Belgian Ardennes. Sean Bough's Ferrari is on pole for Saturday's race with Paul Bailey's Aston Martin alongside, but the championship leaders are way back in 7th with Bob Herber starting the Ferrari. And running up to the rolling start, there's Kelvin Snooks a row in front. Red lights are on. Oh, this is a long hold. Away we go. Great start from Snooks. And look, the Viper around the outside, the BMW up in the middle. Very slow start from the Aston Martin. Pole sitter Sean Boughf. Huge lock up on the inside. That has got to be Kelvin Snooks. Epic start from the yellow Vicora. That's Barry Mason from 9th on the grid. Snooks way out by the tyre wall. Comes back on, I think, in the lead. Yes, he is, ahead of the Vicora. That's astonishing. Well, Snooks way out over the track limits. But Barry Mason, 2nd place. And that was a clean pass. Up the hill we go. 6th place with Bob Herber. You saw the Viper come back on in front. We're looking back at the Ferrari now from Robert de Graaf. Let's take a look from his viewpoint at the start. There's Snooks beside us. And watch the Ferrari. Sean Boughf doesn't get away well, nor does the Aston Martin, in fairness. Disappointing start. They both get jumped. And around the outside goes the Volvo. Snooks locks up deep on the inside. Oh, and there was contact. Robert de Graaf chasing the race leader. Kelvin Snooks in front. High-speed run through Blanchimont and up to the bus stop, and the Volvo moving around as the Viper reels him in really fast. Just avoids contact. Around he goes. So Robert de Graaf takes the lead, but where's Bob Herber? Back in 6th in Super GT, just behind the yellow Vicora V8 of Barry Mason as they go through Pouhon. And there is Niels Bohaus. Oh, contact from the BMW that goes off, and so does the Ferrari. It's a disaster as the championship leader hits the wall hard, but trouble too for arch rival Henry Zumbrink as he picks up a puncture going into Blanchimont and doesn't quite avoid the barriers. Well, with problems for Ferrari duo Herber and Lanting as well, this could have been his chance to take the lead in the championship. He was only a point adrift. Now he doesn't finish 7 laps down in the race. Luckily, complete 75% race distance, so still scores some points, as do his Ferrari rivals. But the big winners behind guest drivers Sean Boughf and Phil Keane. 2nd place for the Viper duo. They take maximum points and they jump into 2nd in the championship ahead of Zumbrink. The wet 2nd race is ideal for Niels Bohaus. He wins ahead of Boughf and Keane. Martin Lanting and Bob Herber yet again in 3rd place, and that's enough to allow them to cling to the championship lead just 1 point clear as they leave Spa-Francorchamps for the final time. It'll all come down to the last race weekend in Assen. And the finely balanced championship takes an immediate twist. The Viper duo grab the lead by a single point, taking pole for both races. At the start of race 1, Arjen van der Zwaan is taking no chances. He loses a place to Kelvin Snooks in the Volvo, but Robert de Graaf then gives it everything in his stint in the Viper and dominates the second half to win the race. The Viper team extend their slender championship lead, but it'll all come down to the very last race of the season here at Assen. Arjen van der Zwaan's on pole in the Viper with Snooks alongside Zumbrink 3rd, only 1 point now behind Ferrari drivers Martin Lanting and Bob Herber. Off go the lights for the final time this year. Great start from Bob Herber, flying by 2 rows from the grid. There is Kelvin Snooks taking the lead. Henry Zumbrink trying to go the long way round the outside. The Viper being cautious, drops in behind the Vicora V8. That'll have a V10 next year, same as this Viper, so that'll make it, I guess, a Vicora V10. Barry Mason has moved up from 7th, though. It's Kelvin Snooks who's got the lead then. Bob Herber in 2nd, Henry Zumbrink up to 3rd. Arjen van der Zwaan being very cautious. Well, replay from the Viper driver. He is on pole, but he's taking no chances with getting punted from behind. The Radical gets blocked behind him, but through goes the Ferrari, the Volvo of Henry Zumbrink, the Vicora, and then the Radical as well. The Viper, though, needs to stay in touch with the leaders. As soon as it starts to rain harder, Arjen van der Zwaan is the first to change onto wets, and that's a great call. It allows the team to take 4th in the race in Super GT, just enough to tie up the title. So here's the final battle of the season for 2nd in the championship. Martin Lanting blocking Henry Zumbrink there, almost easing the Volvo onto the grass. The Martino Rosso and AF Corsa guys are very excited. If Zumbrink ends up in front of the Ferrari, he'll be 2nd in the championship. If not, the Ferrari drivers will, and he'll be 3rd. And Sunbrink, of course, has been in the Volvo all the way through the race. And we've seen how aggressive he's been in the slippery conditions. He's got another good run going here out of Steckenval. And he goes by into second place. That was a really good pass, but he's still got to keep the car on the road. Robert de Graaf finishes in fourth in the Viper. That's more than enough to win his first GT title, together with Roger Graals. Arjen van der Zwaan was already champion in 2007, but this, he says, is the best one so far. Before we got into this car in the Supercar Challenge, we were always second or lower, says Robert. We never managed to win the title. This year we've had an amazing team, a superb car, and we managed to pull it off. Incredible. We're the champions. With a bit more luck, Kelvin Snooks might have been a contender. He ends up fourth behind Martin Lansing and Bob Herber, who are just 1 point behind Tenried Sunbrink, with Graals, de Graaf and van der Zwaan are champions. And Team Raceart join the top three to celebrate on the podium. The cars in GT might look similar to the Super GT rivals, but they have slightly more weight or less power. Ferrari 458 number 258 is driven by Belgians Patrick Glabacker and Frederik Jonkeren. They're new to the championship and to this car, but they immediately show great potential in their first 2 race weekends, finishing on the podium 4 times and even winning a race. But at their home track Spa, nobody can beat the Curbstone Corsa Ferrari drivers. They post 2 pole positions, fastest lap and victory, and leave Spa as points leaders. As they arrive at Brands Hatch in Kent, the Belgians have won 4 races to the 1 of Craig Wilkins, but the Englishman doubles his tally here, winning the first race of the weekend. And in the second encounter, the rivals go head-to-head once more. Craig Wilkins and Frederik Jonkeren wheel to wheel through Graham Hill Bend. The Ferrari gets down the inside of the Viper, but outbrakes himself, and Wilkins comes around the Cooper Straight and into Surtees as they head out into the country. Once more, the Viper driver is in front. It's not just a battle for position, this is all about championship points. A lap and a half later, Jonkeren has another run, gets his nose in front out to the Clark Curve. The Viper's phenomenal power brings Wilkins alongside, but Jonkeren controls Paddock Hill Bend and moves back in front for good. That's enough to extend their championship advantage by another 2 points. The Curbstone Ferrari drivers can't add victory here at Brands Hatch. The fastest man on the track, Henk Tace in the black Radical RX CV8. Tace scores his 5th win of the season here in Kent, but a run of bad luck means he's no longer a championship challenger. The battle rages on between the Viper and Ferrari drivers, with the Belgians 20 points ahead. At the 7th round at Spa, they win race 1, but in the wet conditions of race 2, Craig Wilkins and Aaron Scott have the lead and are determined not to give it away. In the final stages, Frederik Jonkeren attacks in Bruxelles around the outside, but Aaron Scott's having none of that. He eases the Ferrari over the white lines and charges on to the Viper's 3rd win of the season. A good result for the Englishman then, but it looks like they're fighting a losing battle as Van Glabacker and Jonkeren are now 22 points ahead with just 1 race weekend to go, the finale in Assen. So what could possibly go wrong? Well, they leave absolutely nothing to chance. Van Glabacker and Jonkeren spend a lot of time on their own training and testing with the Ferrari, and they come to Assen fully focused on the data and the video analysis. Everything is perfectly set to maximise their chances, and they do exactly that. They end up in the race just behind Aaron Scott and Craig Wilkins, and that's enough to score the points they need to win the GT title after a season-long battle. We've completed our mission, said Patrick. It was very close in the first corner, lots of incidents in front. I almost didn't make it to the finish, but it went okay in the end. Frederik drove a fantastic second stint. We finished 1 place in front of Wilkins and Scott, so we're the champions and we're very happy. Our GT champions and Henk Tace are making plans to move up into Super GT with modifications to their current cars for 2015. In the third of our GT divisions, GTB, 16-year-old Max Kobold made his debut behind the wheel of a Corvette C6, partnered by the experienced Ferdinand Kuhl. The start of their season's plagued by technical problems, allowing Porsche driver Dan Meyer to take the early championship lead. But Meyer also has his problems, including here at the Nürburgring, caught out braking on someone else's oil spill. Max Kobold and Ferdinand Kuhl claimed their first win of the season much earlier than was expected, reflected by the big smile of Kobold. but fate continues to taunt the title contenders. In the second race in Germany, Ferdinand Kuhl drops back to 4th place in GTB. Even before the mandatory pit stop, he brings the car in. A wheel bolt on the left rear needs to be checked and tightened, but that could have ended up being so much worse. They managed to finish 4th, but they still dropped to 2nd in the championship, just 6 points behind Dan Meyer. In the sweltering heat of Spa, Max Cobalt keeps his cool. He's getting faster and faster with every race, and he and Ferdinand Kuhl win the Saturday encounter before going on to claim victory on Sunday as well. Dan Meyer finishes twice on the podium, but he still drops back to 2nd in the championship, 3 points behind the Corvette duo. The battle becomes increasingly tense with every point counting, as we saw during the 5th round in Assen. Title contenders Ferdinand Kuhl and Dan Meyer in a close battle for the lead. Meyer carries too much speed into the Gett-Timmer chicane and through goes the Corvette. But while the Corvette's very good in the corners, the Porsche has better acceleration and top speed, and Meyer retakes the lead around the outside, the Feinslang. The two are at it hammer and tongs up to the pit stop where Max Cobalt takes over the Corvette, ending up in an identical battle. But eventually the teenager's patience runs out. Looking to make a pass, squeezes to the inside, but contact as he oversteers and hits Meyer. Clearly the front suspension is wrecked, he's got no steering. Dan Meyer in real trouble trying to make the pits, but can't get through the left-hander before the pit lane entrance. Great view of this from Kelvin Snooks, who was right behind. Clearly a misjudgment by Max Cobalt, but it's the first time all year he's lost control of the car. In the 6th round at Brands Hatch, Cobalt is handed an extra challenge. Ferdinand Kuhl's withdrawn from the championship, so Max has to do the 60-minute races all by himself. But Dan Meyer is unable to benefit from this change. Right at the start of the race, he's eased onto the grass, and it all goes horribly wrong for the Porsche driver. And it's a heavy shunt for the man who lies 2nd in the championship to Max Cobalt. He had a big shunt in Assen, and now this 27-point gap is only going to grow. Well, fortunately, Meyer is able to start the second race at Brands Hatch. Again, Max Cobalt's on his tail. This time, though, he's a little more patient than he was in Assen. The teenager sees that Meyer's got less speed out of Paddock Hill Bend, and under braking up the inside in Druids, he puts in a clean move to take 2nd. Meyer's fight back is stymied shortly afterwards by a major engine failure, meaning another 0 in the points column. So Max Cobalt heads to Spa knowing that he can claim the title if he manages to finish on the podium in both races, but fate has other plans, and double failures for the Corvette means the title race remains just open. Well, his closest rivals are Steve Van Belling and Vard Slice. They took pole for both races in their BMW Z4 Silhouette and took the lead after the pit stops, heading to win number 2 of the season. And the finale in Assen, the title is just a point away. It could have come in qualifying, but Max didn't earn pole for either race. To score the single point he needs to be champion, all Max Cobalt has to do is finish the first race. He stays out of trouble by letting the Porsches pass him into turn 1. With 4 wins this season, he's got nothing to prove, but he does recall the mechanical problems at Spa, so he's got to keep the car in one piece. It almost goes horribly wrong when Porsche driver Dan Meyer loses control in Harbach. Cobalt just manages to avert disaster, missing the spinning Porsche, and the youngster finishes in 3rd place. That's all he needs to become the youngest Supercar Challenge GT champion ever in his rookie season. Just amazing, says Max. The goal was to secure a podium near the end of the year, so to be champion is amazing. At the beginning of the season, his ambition was to possibly win a race in GTB, yet he ended up being faster than his mentor and winning the championship handsomely. We're bound to be hearing quite a lot more of young Max Cobalt in the future. Stay with us. Coming up next, the Sport and Superlight divisions. The Supercar Challenge is powered by Pirelli, Syntex Innovative Lubricants, Autosportinsurance.com, Spa05.com and Fitzner Performance Gearboxes. Welcome back to our review of the Supercar Challenge powered by Pirelli for 2014. Before the break, we showed you the outcome of the GT divisions. Now we continue with our touring car classes, starting with Supersport. Dutch veteran Cor Oyser starts his season with electronics problems on his Lotus Evora GT4 in the starting grid at Zandvoort, so scores 0 points for race 1. In race 2 in the Dutch Dunes, he strikes back to claim victory, but that means he only lies 5th in the championship as they head to round 2 at the Nürburgring. A veteran of 35 years of racing, he's already got 3 Supercar Challenge titles in his pocket, but he knows this won't be a walk in the park because the Supersport field is stronger than ever, with up to 8 different car makes at the start of every race and plenty of talented drivers. Oyser claimed pole for both races, now takes the lead in the first encounter. Into the tight first chicane, the Evora is followed by the open Lotus 211 of Luc de Kock and Eric Vick in the yellow and white BMW M3 GTR. Both pile the pressure on Oyser, but both are forced out later with technical problems. Of the 27 Supersport cars, only Dennis de Groot in the white BMW M3 GTR comes close to Oyser. He pulls out all the stops to catch the Lotus, but at the flag de Groot is 2 seconds shy of victory. Oyser takes his second race win of the season, holding off de Groot, even though he had to battle hard all race long to do so. In the second race at the Nürburgring, Cor Oyser again takes the lead at the start, running down in the front into the first corner. Despite a poor qualifying result for Koen Burkhardt and Peter van Solen, the BMW drivers, who won the first race in Zandvoort, come back strong into third place. But they were never able to get close to Dennis de Groot and Cor Oyser. De Groot closes the gap to Oyser, this time a tantalising 1.2 seconds behind at the line, but not quite enough to stop Oyser winning his third race in the row. And of course these are all vital points in the title race, because that electrical problem in Zandvoort means that Cor is still only third in the championship as they head to the third race weekend at Spa-Francorchamps. And it probably won't surprise you to see yet another titanic battle between Oyser and de Groot in Belgium, this time for second place in race 1. To de Groot's frustration, once more he fails to pass Oyser. This time he's just a single second behind his veteran rival after 60 minutes of racing. Cor Oyser wins on Saturday then, but on Sunday, Koen Burkhardt and Mark van der Aar claim victory. Is that enough for Oyser to take the championship lead? No, not yet. Despite winning 4 out of the 6 races, he's still 1 point adrift of Dennis de Groot. Oyser now has to wring everything out of the Lotus Evora to take the points lead. After disappointing qualifying at Zolder, he's eager to make up places in the first race, but that all goes wrong under braking for the first left, and that causes a host of problems. Oyser can't finish higher than 6th in either race, while there's a third win for Koen Burkhardt and Mark van der Aar during a very wet Sunday encounter. There was no budget for Dennis de Groot to race in Zolder, so Oyser takes the lead in the championship despite his bad luck in Belgium. 10 points behind of Burkhardt, van der Aar and van Solen, de Groot a further 10 adrift. But de Groot's back for the 5th race weekend at Assen, where Koen Burkhardt and Mark van der Aar win their 4th race of the season. Surprisingly, Oyser again misses out on the podium, and that's good news for the championship, at least because Burkhardt and van der Aar close the gap to Cor to just 2 points. In the second race of the weekend, Koen Burkhardt and Mark van der Aar grab the lead early on, but during the pit stops, the team discovers floods of oil coming out from underneath the bonnet. Unbelievably, it seems the oil filler cap has gone missing. Well, that's the end of their race, and they score a big fat 0. Meanwhile, sharing with Priscilla Speelman, Dennis de Groot finally gains the upper hand over Cor Oyser, claiming his first win of the season. He moves 2 points closer to the veteran, while after their oil filler cap problems, Koen Burkhardt, Mark van der Aar and Peter van Solen are now 21 points adrift. The 6th round of the championship is at Brands Hatch, and despite his experience here, Cor Oyser again qualifies poorly. He'll start only 7th. The pole positions have been earned by Eric van der Munkhoff and then Dennis de Groot and Priscilla Speelman. Getting ready for the rolling start, building up speed, waiting for the lights to go out, and away we go. Great start from Priscilla Speelman. She's got the outside line into Paddock Hill Bend. Cor Oyser going 3 wide in the Black Lotus, trying to come around the outside. Leaders into Paddock Hill Bend, all contact Priscilla Speelman and Mark van der Aar on the inside. And having to take to the gravel trap in avoidance there, Speelman, and it looks like Cor Oyser stuck at the bottom of the hill. In the replay we see it again, Priscilla Speelman makes a big mistake here, bumping into Mark van der Aar, getting completely sideways down Paddock Hill Bend. Ruud Ollie manages to avoid a collision, but Oyser's got nowhere to go. The Dutchman rejoins at the back of the field, but it's game over for Spelman, so Dennis de Groot gets a 0 for this race. For the championship's third-place drivers, it's a nightmare start. Peter van Solen is rammed at Druids by Huub Del Nooy, who is in turn hit from behind. Fortunately, van Solen is able to continue, but he and Koen Boekarts only finish in 6th. Koolhoys is just 7th though, so they do move closer to him, while Dennis de Groot drops to 3rd in the points. It's a real game of snakes and ladders. De Groot, though, takes his second race win of the season at Spa in Saturday's encounter, but in the second race he retires with a broken alternator, another 0. So Koolhoys heads into the final race weekend hoping to claim the title still. On a wet TT circuit at Assen, he'll start from 3rd place on wet weather tyres. His only rivals, Peter van Solen and Koen Boekarts, gamble on slicks, hoping for a dry line to appear long before the pit stop window opens. But their gamble misfires. Van Solen drops right away from the leader from the start. He's struggling on the slicks with no grip, while on his rain tyres, Koolhoys is moving forward. The Lotus Evora GT4 is the perfect weapon in these conditions, and he moves up to 2nd behind Erik van der Munkhoff, but he's taking no chances. Even though Cor is 11 points ahead in the standings, he must still finish the race. He's one of the Netherlands' most experienced professional racing drivers, and he knows the best lines around here at Assen in the wet. He soon takes the lead and builds a huge advantage, and during the stops you see how well he's treated the tyres. They look almost brand new. Koen Boekarts takes over from Peter van Solen in the pit stops, but can't do anything about the dominance of Koolhoys either. Oyser races on to victory and claims the Supersport Championship title. I think it was the best way to finish the season. What I showed in the rain was the best I could do. I was faster than anyone, says Coy. The setup was just amazing. Exactly in the middle of a dry and a wet setup, perfect. I was able to benefit from both situations, a dry line or a wet line. Did a great job. Well, Koolhoys takes his 4th Supercar Challenge title after winning his first in 2002 with Peter van Solen, who he's now beaten. Celebrating with his granddaughters and, of course, second-place finishers Dennis de Groot and Michael Verhagen, and third-placed Erik van der Munkhoff joining him on the podium as well. So a combination of speed and great tactics from Koolhoys wins his 4th title. Koen Boekarts, Mike van der Aar, Peter van Solen in 2nd, and Dennis de Groot just ahead of Erik van der Munkhoff in 3rd. The battle for the sport class raged season-long between two teams. The Renault Clio of Dennis de Borst and Martin de Klein tussling with the Orange Lotus of Erwin van Dijk. On a wet Zolder circuit, Van Dijk drops out after a collision in the first chicane. There's a lot of damage and he loses the championship lead to de Borst and de Klein. As the pendulum swings, they have their fair share of bad luck during the 5th round of the championship. In Saturday's race, they push too hard and damage one of their Pirelli tyres, dropping back. Van Dijk benefits from their misfortune and grabs his 3rd win of the season, a boost for the team after the unlucky weekend in Zolder. He takes a 9-point lead in the championship and things are looking good. But fate intervenes once more and it all goes wrong as Erwin van Dijk and a Renault Clio tangle at Assen. This time it's Frank Bedorf that chops the nose of the Lotus Exige, causing suspension damage. In the replay we see it again, clearly a big mistake by Bedorf. Van Dijk ends up 6th in the race, but despite Dennis de Borst and Martin de Klein taking 2nd, Van Dijk still has a 1-point title race advantage. Wesley and Moritz Carranza run into bad luck in race 2. They slump to 17 points off the lead, but turn things around at Brands Hatch. After the stops, the cousins have the lead in their 1 Series BMW because of less result seconds than Lotus driver Erwin van Dijk. Van Dijk finally makes the move, getting the run through the Clark Curve and onto the Brabham Straight on the inside for the lead. And the inevitable happens here. He's alongside into the braking area at Paddock Hill Bend, holds the line, holds the control, holds the lead of the race from Wesley Carranza. Well, Van Dijk, after finishing 2nd in race 1 on Saturday, goes on to win race 2 on Sunday. A big weekend for him. His main championship rivals were behind him, but they were behind him, and that means he extends his advantage after Brands Hatch. He now leads Dennis de Borst and Martin Klein, with the Carranzas closing a little on 2nd place in 3rd spot, but everything's still to play for. The 7th race weekend at Spa-Francorchamps, Dennis de Borst leads the race from the Carranza cousins. Erwin van Dijk is down in 6th position. He'll eventually finish in 7th spot. The Lotus Exige driver just not up to speed in the rain. Race winners after the soaking 60 minutes encounter are Moritz and Wesley Carranza, with Dennis de Borst and Martin de Klein in 2nd spot. Well, the new leaders in the sport class, Dennis de Borst and Martin decline from Erwin van Dijk, with the Carranzas still in the hunt as they head to the final round at Assen. But the cousins' hopes are almost immediately dashed. They drop out with a broken drive shaft. And amazingly, the same fate also awaits Erwin van Dijk. He too sidelined by a broken drive shaft, meaning his title hopes are looking pretty slender. The only thing the dropouts can do is to hope for mechanical failure for Dennis de Borst and Martin Decline's Renault Clio, but despite hitting trouble, they still managed to cross the line in third, and that means they are the new sport champions. Man, that was exciting, says Martin again. We had a fracture on the front right tyre, so I had to back off to keep it in one piece. Lost maybe 6 or 7 seconds a lap to the others. The only thing I had to do was get across the line safely. I saw our rivals had dropped out, so that was good. We managed to set the fastest time before the pit stops, but it was very hard near the end. Lots of vibrations, but it stayed in one piece. So we're the champions. The new champions celebrate on the podium with a 23-point lead. They can't now be caught, and they win their first sport class championship. Next year, they'll step up to Supersport with the latest generation Seat Leon Cup racer. And we end our review with the Superlights, the fast and nimble sports prototypes, first introduced in 2013 when Henk Tace just missed out on the title in Group 2. He was keen to do better this year and got his challenge off to a great start by winning the first 4 races, including here at the Nürburgring with co-driver Danny Brandt. Group 3 champion Ko Kopjan returns to defend his title in his Radical, but it all goes wrong for him as Vivo Rademacher and the black and gold Radical comes into contact with David Huthoff's Norma. In the chaos, Kopjan also gets tangled up in the Nürburgring shunt. Both Radicals are forced to retire from the race, yet Vivo Rademacher retains the joint lead in the championship, which he shares with Carlo Kaya, who drives a Praga R1. And the two championship rivals come head-to-head in a great battle at a very wet Zolder. Rademacher in the slipstream of Kaya down the start-finish straight, where he's been for many laps trying to get by, trapped in the massive rooster tails of spray from the ground effect Praga in front of him. But then into the Bianchi corner, Kaya has to defend by blocking, loses momentum, and Rademacher carries better speed towards the first chicane to take the lead. Capping a successful weekend, he wins the second race of his season and leads the championship by 9 points from Carlo Kaya. In Group 2, the race win goes to Henk Hane in a Tata CN. He outruns Henk Tace and Naomi Schiff, but winning the championship is no longer a possibility for him after a lot of bad luck at the beginning of the year. Then we head to Brands Hatch for round 5 of the championship. Waiting for the lights to change. Oh my goodness, now was that a jump start? Denny van Dongen absolutely flew by in the white Praga. Up the inside comes the Norma as well. Henk Tace behind us at the moment, but losing places. Vibo Rademacher up to Druids. There is Daniel Gibson, the race leader. There around the outside is Henk Tace looking for, 4th place, 5th place battle there. And he's in front of the Norma and in front of us. Rademacher down into 8th position. Tace goes through into Graham Hill Bend, gets in front of Carlo Kaya. And Rademacher could also do with getting by the Praga driver to close the gap in the championship. Rademacher lost a lot of points not going to Spa, but Kaya finishes in front of Rademacher, so he hangs on to the lead in the title race. In Group 2, Henk Tace finishes behind the Gibson in both races, but that is enough to secure the championship title. So I might be the new Group 2 champion, but I'm keen to show what I've got. Still got unfinished business. My co-driver is Rob Weldon, in a very fast lad. We're going to make life very difficult for the Gibson boys. We want to beat them in the final race. Well, it all seems to be going to plan at the start of the last race of the season as Henk Tace gets in front of Daniel Gibson at Assen. A long battle for the lead ensues, but it's ultimately Henk Tace who holds first place into the pit stop window. It's mission accomplished on his part. Meanwhile, Carlo Kaya only needed to finish the race to be Group 3 champion, but look at this, he only just makes it, stumbling across the finish line. Ko Kopjan wins the race, but Carlo Kaya is crowned the 2014 Group 3 champion. That feels good for sure. It's my first season in Superlights. Of course, I had a bit of luck on my side. We had great strategies though throughout the season, well-planned pit stops during safety cars and so on. So I think it's all worked really well. We collected points in every round and that's what matters. Like I said before, it's more important to finish a race than to try and win it and score no points if you overdo it. Carlo Kaya then tops the Group 3 Championship in the second year of the Superlights, defending champion Kokopian coming home in third. And that was the season of the Supercar Challenge powered by Pirelli in 2014. We round out our review with a look into the future. This is the 2015 calendar. Again, there are 4 Belgian races with 2 events at Spa-Francorchamps and 2 at Zolder. And there's a welcome return to Brands Hatch. The format of the Superlights has changed to attract more entries. It too will become a 2-day event with practices, qualifying in a sprint race on Saturday and an endurance race on Sunday. Well, that's it for 2014. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next year. The Supercar Challenge is powered by Pirelli, Syntex Innovative Lubricants, Autosportinsurance.com, Spa05.com and Fitzner Performance Gearboxes.